Jim Kunkel here. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel and set the notification bell to all so that you won't miss any of my new content.
Power. It takes many forms. It drives us physically, energizes us mentally. This is what we live for. Fearless, persistent, relentless. We are leaders. We keep climbing, pushing, striving for greatness. We fight for what we believe in. We believe in a brighter future.
What an amazing video. In this episode of Global Topic, we'll be focusing on tower painting, or painting in the sky, as I like to call it. With me today is Michael McDougall from Tower Power Group. Michael, welcome to the episode.
Thank you, Joe.
Could you tell everybody what your role is with your company and also what you guys do?
Certainly. Thanks for asking. And thanks, Jim, for taking the time to to do this. This is a fantastic, not only opportunity for us, but certainly one for the industry. And a little known, it's a little known task, that the work that we do. And when I raise this with others, they don't even understand or even could even realize that there would be an industry that serves what we do. And what Tower Power does is we paint energized transmission towers for utilities, and we typically extend the service of life of these structures and assets somewhere upwards of 20 to 30 years with a single coat of paint. The technical term would be corrosion mitigation through protective coatings, and this is something that utilities have had these towers in the air now for quite some time. The majority of structures in the United States and Canada are about 40 years old, and the way that I see it, the way that hot dip galvanizing ablates, that leaves us not a lot of time after 40 years to get some product on those towers to extend the service life of these and be able to defer some capital expenses, for upwards of 30, 40 years. My role at the company, operations director, and I come from I bring about 34 years of experience in this. I started when I was 16 years old. I'm 50, I'll be 52 this year. And my first experience with towers was with Ontario Hydro here in Canada, now called Hydro One. And I was brought on there as a groundman, and I found that a little bit boring. Although running around the ground and doing what I had to do and learning some of the ropes there was okay, I always wanted to be up on those towers. And I had the opportunity to do that once, and I kind of liked it. And I was given a job after a few transitions, given an opportunity in the telecommunications and broadcasting industry. My first tower I climbed was 600 feet, and I was scared to hell of these heights. I didn't know what I was getting into, and it turned out to be quite the adventure, something I really enjoyed. And when I came off that tower, I knew instantly that this was something I'd like to do for the rest of my life, which is still carrying on. We started Tower Power when I was 23, 24 years old, and has continued on. A couple, again, transitions. We've had to rebrand, and our most recent rebranding was in 2014. And it's funny, today marks the day of our 6th anniversary here in Canada, where we'd start out by British Columbia with a large tower painting program there for one of our partners at BC Hydro. So this is something that's ongoing, and we've spread across Canada. We're now down in the States, in California, and working our way through into the northeastern states as well, with an effort to help, again, all the utilities keep their assets in the air.
So the first thing I have to say, you're climbing at, very high heights, 600 feet, as you earlier mentioned, and also highly energized towers related to transmission of electricity. Are you crazy, Michael?
I've been told worse. I think there's a certain amount of craziness that has to go into it, but it's manageable. There has to be an awareness more than anything else. Yeah, you know what? We could probably be categorized as having a couple screws loose, pardon the pun, but the work that we do is contrary to what might be popular belief, very safe. And the guys who are working on these structures are very well accredited and deemed competent before they're allowed to even so much as get a foot off the ground.
Knowing you for the number of years that, we've known each other, and, I know that you also, the group also, you guys travel globally. Anywhere there's energized towers, you guys have the capability and the opportunity to work on those. In the on your different times you post stuff, you've had video that you put out there, and safety has always been a big important part of your company, your company's essence, let's say. What type of focus on safety do you have related to the climbing aspect and also the energized aspect of your work?
Yeah, well, something that we've listen, we're diligent. We have to be. We're just to put it in layman's terms, we're working, or sometimes we're 15, 20 feet away from 500,000 volts, and we're swinging around buckets of paint that's conductive. And the guys not only are up there, and typically when we're painting in the summer, fire rated gear and coveralls and that, so this creates a whole pile of new hazards, and just we got to take occasionally different angles of approach in how we go about mitigating the safety of this the whole program. What's the best way of putting this, Jim? The guys, when we start a new guy, when we start new staff, and if we have to train them from ground up, there's a series of events that need to take place here. And first and foremost, the guys who go through a first aid and CPR and a climbing a course and a tower rescue and making sure this is all done for us. It takes about anywhere between 30 and 45 days to get a guy deemed competent before we allow him to go onto the tower. And it could include things like bear awareness, for example. We have to deal with wildlife in some of these places in northern Canada. Driving 4x4s, dealing with getting in and out of paddocks and farmers fields, and just dealing. There's a whole different area of safety we have to deal to that just doesn't necessarily pertain to climbing these towers. Electrical awareness, and of course, we got to know what the hazards and how we go to mitigate that as well. So I guess at the end of the day, our guys, when they're deemed competent, have reached a minimum of 2,000 hours of working in the energized zone of the tower. And up until that point, they're considered to be an apprentice. And it's something we've been working with other companies and unions to assign a designation for this work here as energized tower painter or tower technician moving forward. Our company is ISO 9000, 14,000, and 18,000 accredited. So there's a certain protocol that we have to maintain, and it's all audited for us. And this kind of keeps us in gear.
So when you're painting energized towers, obviously contractors that do bridge work or other type of structures, be it steel or concrete, they're using a lot of different equipment and a lot of different tools and things like that. Typically with your group, when you guys are up there painting, what type of equipment related to maybe simple prep or even the painting application, what are you guys wearing? What are you guys using up there?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, as long as we can address the issues as they are current, we won't necessarily have to come into a situation where we introduce secondary preparation through what we were using over New Zealand and Australia's wet abrasive blasting or slurry blasting to get the corrosion off the towers. One of the things we like to encourage owners is to address the rust before it gets to corrosion so that we don't have to do that. And that said, we can usually come in with an SP1, an SP2, sometimes SP3, a prep. And the materials that we use are typically a zinc-based product. It might be some epoxies, urethanes. It depends all on the environment, the geographics of where these towers are. The guys are wearing fire-rated coveralls. They have to wear these things here. And that's a tough one to do because, I mean, the minute you start painting these towers, you get paint all over these things, and the gear. So it starts not only becoming expensive, but you can also, introduce new hazards as you're working. So you got to be very mindful of that too as well. So with fire-rated gear, big climbing harnesses, and hard hats, and the guys are typically wearing some sort of nitrate glove to make sure that they're kept safe that way. The usual PPE on these sites, and now with everything going on in the world, I think we're probably going to be wearing masks before and after we get down the tower. It's kind of crazy, but that's pretty much it there, Jim.
So and the work that you're doing is very essential. So right now you're in full operation. You guys are going all over the place. How during this current situation with the global pandemic, how is that impacting your business when you're out there and you're doing jobs? I think you said you're heading to Kentucky next.
Yeah, we've got a crew that's going to be working in Kentucky and making their way down to Tennessee shortly this week. Listen, it's had a major impact on our operation. We didn't see it coming. I don't think anybody could have seen this coming. And but we've had to really react, more of a response than a reaction. We've had to do both in order to make sure that we are kept fluid and kept mobile and allow our clients some of the benefits of this. We're considered as still essential and critical workers in this industry with utilities, and we're really happy to have the support of organizations such as Society of Protective Coatings, NACE, and the utilities with us on site in order to, any unions, to make sure that we can still deliver and keep our promises to our clients.
So you had mentioned earlier that countries like New Zealand, and also obviously you're based in Canada, you work in the United States, you work pretty much globally. Have you found, related to the infrastructure when it comes to electric transmission towers, have you found that pretty much the whole world is in a certain condition? As you said, you mentioned about the age of the towers. Are they in poor condition, okay condition? What's the global status on the infrastructure?
Well, my thinking on this changes almost weekly. And last week we were driving up through Pennsylvania and around Massachusetts, and I was looking at some of the towers there, and I recall seeing these structures about 3 or 4 years ago, the same ones off the highway, and they went from a sort of a bronzing on the tower structure to rust. And I can only imagine another 3 or 4 years down the road there'll be corrosion on that. So from a global perspective, there's a huge, massive, it's almost an exodus of towers that are degrading and becoming, real high risks for these utilities in order to replace. You recall some of the bridge, incidents that have taken place globally now, and those are kind of paving the way forward for these towers. One of the things that I emphasize when I'm talking to a new client, or perhaps one that just needs a little understanding of exactly what it means to do this work and the costs associated with it, I'll have 4 numbers. And the first number would be say $3,000. And I'll use this liberally, and this is just figuratively, don't hold me to this. But we'll say $3,000 will get you your tower painted on the ground before it gets erected. If you wanted to paint your tower in the air, it'll probably be around $30,000. If, let's say, for example, you took a look at that tower and said, yeah, let's replace that thing. We're not going to paint it $300,000. But if you took a look at that tower and said, yeah, let's not worry about painting it. Let's just see how it goes. It'll cost you about $3 million to replace it when it collapses. And then some. Forget about the public humiliation and the embarrassment that goes with it. It's a big deal. So there's some huge savings to getting these things done. And the way that it is right now, they're not getting any younger staying up there. The minute that tower gets hot dip galvanized and erected, it starts to fail, just like any other coating that we deal with. So we have to be able to take a look at those and take a look at these towers, figure out which ones that have to be addressed based on the criticality of that line and the service that it provides. And again, bring that back to the client and raise their awareness on this, and hopefully educate them on what we can do to extend that service life.
So we talked about the painting aspect. Is one of the services that you guys provide kind of like an asset planning or asset management with the utility companies?
We can certainly work, towards that with the utility. That is one of the services that we offer. However, there are other third-party inspection teams out there, and we prefer to lean on their expertise. We paint towers. That's our deal. We can discuss and certainly raise I guess some of the challenges and some of the good, the bad, and the uglies of what their tower state is. But I think it's a good idea to have. If I were a client, if I were a utility, I would probably opt to have a third-party inspection team and have a separate tower painting crew.
I see. So, we talked about energized towers. Do you also do painting of communication towers?
We certainly do, and that's something we're up to this week in the States, Jim. Broadcasters, telecommunications typically don't run into a huge problem with corrosion on their towers. However, if they haven't been painted or duplex coated, they will have exhibited some corrosion. We're lucky, we're finding a lot of the towers that we're painting right now are for air navigation warning, orange and white, and because they've had that extra coat of protection, the rust and the corrosion is almost non-existent. Just the fading of the orange paint for identification for planes.
Very interesting. Very interesting. We covered so much here, Michael, in our conversation. In closing out this interview, is there anything that you would want to pass on to the viewers that you feel is important?
Well, I say this openly, and we need competition. we need people doing this stuff. We need people out there, considering painting these assets. There's 950,000 miles in America alone of aging towers. That means we'll probably need about 10,000 people up there painting these things if we're going to have, or that $3 million is pretty evident. And so as much as I hate, giving away work, I believe it's necessary for me to raise that and say, listen, guys, if you're thinking about a great business, come and talk to me, and we can sort you out. We want to grow the industry, and we want to keep the clients. We want to keep these towers in the air. God forbid if these things start falling down, it would be a huge mess. It'll be colossal.
So, in the global protective coatings industry, the challenge has always been, getting the younger generation to become the abrasive blasters and the spray applicators and working within the contractors. And, here you are also pointing out not only a workforce shortage, but also a contractor-based shortage when it comes to what you guys do. Michael, I very much appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you today. And for everyone watching this episode, I will have Michael's email address and also have the website address for your company, so you can take a look and get a better understanding of what the group does and everything like that. Michael, thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Jim.